In this video, we continue the series on how to write a pop EDM track from scratch, and today we add the drums.
True Sound Studios is in your ears.
Okay guys, welcome back. So today we are going to add drums to our EDM pop track. If you haven't seen how we created these chords, there'll be a link in the description of this video where you can go ahead and check out the very first video. So getting started though, we are going to add drums. Just to refresh your memory, here's the chords. Okay, so nothing too crazy. We got 4 good solid chords. And the first thing we're going to do is we're first going to turn down our synth because it's already too loud. It's almost peaking. So we're just going to go down and turn it down like 5 decibels. Let's take a listen. Watch our master output meter. Okay, so that's much better, somewhere around negative 10, negative 11 decibels. Now, we always want to monitor our master output because we want to try to stay somewhere between negative 5 and negative 7 decibels. That's a great place to stay with our master output. We don't want to push this to 0. You're going to find problems in mastering, and the goal is to keep your master output somewhere between negative 5, negative 7. That's what I try to do. It always seems to work out. Mastering engineers like it. It's just kind of a good standard to do. Okay, so we have our project here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we are going to add down to VST2. We're going to add this session drummer. Once again, we're just going to use the MIDI source, and this time there's actually going to be a multitude of outputs, but to try to make this a little easier so I can try to teach you guys a little bit more, we're just going to do the first synth output. Just leave it alone. What it came up with is fine. So hit OK. For me, I always like drums up top, so I'm going to move the drums just up here and have our synth down lower. I also like all these to be kind of like the same size. It just seems like it works out a little easier. And I'm going to pull these down a little bit so that we can open up this. So we haven't done anything. Everything's default right now. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on the session drummer, and there we go. Here's our drum kit. Now everything's kind of like translucent because we haven't actually added any samples to this. Now we're not going to get into samples, where to get samples from, what samples you have. It depends on, what programs you have, what you guys have already purchased and all that. So we're not going to get into drum sounds. I'm just going to show you how to create a song for drum sounds, synth sounds, stuff like that. You guys are ultimately going to have to figure that out. Now there's plenty of places that where you can get free drum samples, and look around on YouTube. I will include a link or two to some of the places that I get my drum samples from. Okay, so right up here, this is the drum kit view, and now we want to go to the mixer view. So all of these can be different drum sounds, and we can actually individually process each one. And just for today, I'm going to show you just really simply. We're going to do kick, snare, hi-hat. First thing we're going to do is come to our kick drum. We're going to right click on the kick drum, and we're going to go to load instrument. Cakewalk actually comes with, depending on what you've purchased, comes with already a bunch of drum samples. Now, not saying that the Cakewalk stuff is bad. I just don't use them as much. So I have my own drum samples that I've kind of put together over, quite a bit of time. One of the places I get my drum samples from is from a website called I Want That Sound. It's also known as That Sound. And they actually have a whole free one. So maybe we'll just use this one. And I will include a link to all these samples in the description of this video. And let's see here. Let's go to... let's do cinematic pop maybe, and we'll do this big kick drum. So it's got a lot of, ambience on there. Now that's something we can take care of later, but I know that's a good drum sound. I've used that in the past. Now we're going to go to our snare, do the same thing. This time we will use, let's see here. Maybe we'll use this guy. So that should be fine. And then a hi-hat, once again, pick a hi-hat. This is one of my favorites, 808. Okay, so for right now, kick, snare, hi-hat. Now they're all different volumes and we're going to fix that, so don't worry about that. But most importantly, what we need to do is we want to route these to individual outputs. So kick drum can be on 1. If we come over here and we just click this, left click, it's going to turn to 2. And then for the hi-hat, we want 3. And I'll show you why later. Essentially, these are going to run now to individual different outputs so we can process these drums separately. So for right now, we can just go ahead and close this. This is track number 2. I'm going to move this up. So this is going to be a little different from down here. This one's actually going to be our MIDI drum. So I'm going to actually label this. So MIDI drums. Now, this is actually our first output. So once again, we're going to write MIDI on here. It's going to send that MIDI information to our session drummer. Then the session drummer is going to add those drum samples that we added, and it's going to send them out to our individual tracks where we can then further process them. So, for example, this is going to be the first one. So this is going to be kick. So we got kick there. And then I'm just going to create 2 more. We're going to do insert and then insert. I'll move these down a little bit just to kind of rearrange these properly. Okay, so then number 3 is going to be snare, and track number 4 is going to be hi-hat. I think that actually might be one word. Either way, so what we need to do is now we need to actually select the input for our drums. So right here, we got the MIDI drums. This is once again where we're going to write the MIDI, but this is our kick drum. So our input needs to be picking up the output from our session drummer. So input, we're going to come down here to session drummer, and because it was the first output, it's going to be in stereo. So these will essentially, kind of how these are at least show up in here. This is going to be 2, 4, 6. So just cut the numbers in half. This is 3, this is 2, this is 1. So kick drum is going to be this one. Snare drum is going to be session drummer, but this is going to be 4. And then our hi-hat is going to be, session drummer is going to be 6. So now if I pull this open, just watch over here when our kick signals come to our kick channel, our snare coming to our snare channel, and our hi-hat to our hi-hat channel. So now we have individually routed our drums. So now what we can do is, the easiest way I like to mix these is to just rough mix them first. I know that kick drum is probably just a little too loud. I'm just going to turn that down. And that hi-hat seemed just too loud. So just a rough mix. We don't need to mix it right now. Let's actually set up a drum beat. So what we're going to do is we're going to just highlight our MIDI drums by just very simply, I just like to click on the number. Then we come up here to view. And what we're going to do is actually go to this piano roll view. Now, this is once again just the way that I do it. I'm sure there's plenty of other ways out there. So then up here, we want to go to draw. And then over here, we want to snap this. I like to do 16th notes. That kind of works out. And then with our draw tool, we're actually going to draw in 16th. And I'm going to take off one more thing. I'm going to take off this last touch. Kind of like the snap touch over here. I just don't particularly like that. So I'm just going to take that off. It's going to be on 16th notes. So great. So as you can see, it's kind of like abbreviated the track names over here. So you're actually going to come all the way down to where it kind of changes from the numbers and letters to right here. So this will be kick, snare, and one of these will be hi-hat. There you go, hi-hat. So we know it starts 8 beats in or on measure 3. So I'm going to very simply just do some simple things right now. Do kick. And we're just going to do these on the quarter note. So just take a listen. So nothing too crazy. So I just zoomed in a little bit. Let's just do some more of these kicks like this. And then maybe we'll do, it's going to be like on these off beats. So let's just take a listen to this. So it's kind of fun. If you want to be a little bit more traditional, you can move this here. So this is beat 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you could have something like this. And the way I'm doing it is just a little bit more fun. Cool. So then let's, this is going, once again, we're going to rearrange this whole project. This is just to get us started. So for hi-hat, we can do anything. Now, don't be afraid to kind of just play around with this. Let's do 4 here. We'll skip 1. Maybe we'll do 3. do one. We'll do this like this, and then maybe we'll just double up at the end here. Kind of make these nice and long. So take a listen. So for this intro of the song, it's probably going to be obviously too much, but just to show you how easy it really is to just draw on these drums. Now you obviously can play these on the keyboard. I just particularly don't like to do it like that. So I'm just going to erase these, and I'm going to try just doing it on the upbeat. So essentially it's going to be in between the beat, and you'll hear what this sounds like. Now for the verse, it's probably a little bit too much. So I'm just going to delete these for right now. We're really just going to play around with this kick and snare, at least for this small intro. So if you like that, if that's, is good enough for you to start with, you can also come over here and we can switch this to whole notes again, which means we can copy, whoops, don't want to do that. Come up to the Smart tool and then right click and drag over the top of this. And then what you can do is edit, copy, and then just paste. And here we go. So there you go. So now we got like a good solid drum beat. And then obviously you can change this. You can add hi-hats in. You could, maybe you don't like this many kicks and you take out some of these. Just remember, once again, guys, you are making art. There essentially is no wrong. There might be things that don't sound as good, but there's really no wrong. So that could be cool too. That could be a fun, little different thing. So I can come up here, do this, we do edit, copy, come over here and paste this, and maybe we'll bring this second half back to what it originally, whoops, got to come over here and change this to 16th though. See, I make mistakes too. It's very easy to, it's complicated. So we'll do this, whoops, right here. So now if we take a listen, okay, cool. So now let's get a little bit into mixing these a little bit, because I'm sure that is another big question for you guys. So we have our drums right here. This is the MIDI, what we wrote. And then we got the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. So I know we're not using the hi-hat right now, and that's okay. Let's make this a little bit more simple. Now, me particularly, I like to make a drum bus. This is our bus section, and these are our tracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to our bus section and right click, insert a stereo bus. I'm going to call this drums. So now we got a drum bus. So what we're going to do is over here on our tracks, our kick, snare, and hi-hat, where it says master, which is actually our output, we now want to come over here and select our drums. So now our kick drum, our snare drum, and now our hi-hat is actually going to come to this drum bus first and then go to our master output. And what we can do is, maybe if you don't want to independently process these drums, you could come over here and we're just going to process just the drums now. So maybe we can put on, let's do something kind of fun. I like the Puke Child from Waves. This is kind of not super aggressive on drums. So that's what it's on. Let's take it off. It really kind of makes those, those drums really pump. But that is just a nice, easy way to do this. Now, if you wanted to go one step further, you could do parallel compression on this. But I think that's something we will pick up a little later on. I really do like to put some sort of compressor on the drum bus just to help control some of that. And then obviously, once again, you could come back over here and edit your drums even further individually. Just edit the kick, just the snare, and just the hi-hat. But for right now we have drums and we have our synth chords that are going to begin our songwriting process. So take a listen one more time. So there you guys go. That is how you add drums now to your synth. And in the next video, we're going to add bass, and then we're also going to start playing around with the leads, the synth leads, or maybe we'll do piano leads, and really start putting this whole song together. So if you guys like this video, consider subscribing and hit that like button. Follow us on Instagram for daily posts. You can find the beats that I make right here at the studio on our SoundCloud page. True Sound Studios also mixes and masters your tracks. So once again, guys, thanks for watching this video. I'm Wiesna, we're at True Sound Studios, and True Sound Studios is in your ears.